Hello friends, my name is Alex and welcome to my channel. Today we are going to be talking about 7 young adult fantasy books that I think are underrated that you might not have heard of yet. So the 7 books that I'm going to be talking to you about today all have less than 1,500 ratings on Goodreads. I was going to do only ones that had less than 1,000, but there were a couple that I just really feel I wanted to talk about that had a couple more than 1,000 ratings. So all of them are below 15,000 ratings. They have all come out between 2020 and 2022. They fall into that young adult fantasy genre, and I really enjoyed reading them. I'm not gonna say these are like the best books of all time, but there's some that you might not have heard of that I thought were a really fun time to read and might give you some ideas of things to read if you feel like you've read everything out there that's super popular, all the Sarah J. Maas, all the Leigh Bardugo, stuff like that, and you're looking for something a little bit different, something that's not being talked about as much, and want to support a different author. So these are 7 books that I had a super fun time with. Most of them I ended up listening to on audiobook from the library, so I won't have a physical copy to show you, but I will pop up a little picture so you can see the cover and chat with you a little bit about what these books are about and why I enjoyed them. And at the very end is actually one of my all-time favorite books, so stick around for that as well. The first book I want to talk to you guys about is The Liar's Crown by Abigail Owen. This is a young adult fantasy novel about twin princesses, and we follow the younger second-born twin who has been living in hiding her whole life because she is the secret twin who is there to kind of replace her sister should something go wrong, and also to stand in for her sister during dangerous situations. So when their grandmother, the queen, dies and her sister is going to be coronated as the new queen, our main character, Marin, has to step in for the coronation ceremony. However, when a mysterious, dangerous man called the Shadow Wraith shows up to kidnap the new queen, he ends up with her twin sister instead. So we follow Marin as she's being kidnapped by this mysterious man. Her empire kingdom is at war with a neighboring king who is trying to marry her sister, and lots of things are going down. So this was a super fun read. I know that recently lots of people have been talking about Twin Crowns, which is another twin princesses story that came out this year as well. And of the two, I actually read them both. I enjoyed The Liar's Crown so much more. I think this was such a fun take on the twin princesses storyline. I really enjoyed our male love interest and the romance that was going on in it. I thought this was a super fun read, and I really highly recommend it if you are looking for just a kind of classic YA princess story, but with a twist, with a little bit of an enemies to lovers kind of flair to it. We've got, man with dark shadow magic going on. We have lots of fun things. We have the childhood friend situation. We have lots going on in this story that is super fun, and Marin herself has magical powers, so we have her discovery and kind of working on developing her own powers as well, which is really fun to read about, and I highly recommend The Liar's Crown by Abigail Owen. The next one on my list is Blood and Moonlight by Erin Beatty. In this book, we follow a young woman named Katrin. She is an apprentice to the master architect. So she has a really cool job. She climbs around in the scaffolding at the Holy Sanctum where they are building this massive expansion. And her job is to kind of check the scaffolding and make sure that the workers are going to be safe and not fall to their deaths. While she's doing that, one evening on her own, she is witness to a murder, which kind of happens in a mysterious, magical way, and magic is expressly forbidden. So the fact that she is experiencing some sort of magic is something that she definitely needs to hide. But because she witnessed this murder, she gets drawn into the investigation with the investigator. So she's trying to help him while simultaneously trying not to be discovered for her own magical secret that is going on, and trying to stay safe and away from a serial killer on the loose. So this was a really interesting take on the YA kind of murder mystery that has been circling of late, which I'm a huge fan of. and this is kind of a medieval setting. We have lots of really great mental health representation. It is explained in a way that would, make sense to the medieval time period, so it's difficult for them to understand, but I feel it's done in a really good way, and I really enjoyed a lot of the things in this. There are obviously some trigger warnings to go along with all of that, but this was a really enjoyable one. Again, not an absolute favorite of mine, but a really fun read. The third book I want to talk to you about is Luminous by Mara Rutherford. Now, I know she's got another book coming out soon that's been pretty hyped. It is called The Poison Season, but I have not seen people talking about Luminous. It's not the best book I've ever read, but I had a really fun time reading it. I really enjoyed the main character and the magic system, and just thought it was a great, quick YA fantasy read. So in this book, we follow our main character, Leora, who has been in hiding because of her magical powers. I think we're seeing a theme in this video, possibly, but she has been in hiding because of her magical powers. The king's warlock kind of rules the magical people in this land, and her family does not want her to be discovered by him. Leora's magical secret is that she glows, so she's not allowed out at night. She has to stay hidden to protect herself from being taken in by the king's warlock. But instead, her sister is taken by him, and at the same time, her best friend goes missing. And so in order to save the people that she loves, she has to, instead of hiding from her magic, accept her magic and go on a quest to save her sister and her best friend. Along the way, she ends up uncovering an even more sinister plot that may threaten the safety of her entire world. So in this book, we have sinister, creepy, magical, mystical beasts that are woven out of tapestries. We have a young woman who glows in the dark, and a world where magic users have to bow to the king or live a life on the run. So this was another just really fun YA story, super easy and quick read, and I am surprised that I haven't seen this one around more, mostly because the magic system was so interesting to me, specifically where it came to tapestries and weaving. There was a character with a really unique and incredible power that I absolutely loved reading about. It was super fascinating, and yeah, I loved the magic system as well as the friendships, the sisterhood, the relationships in this story. I thought were done in a really sweet and wonderful way. So yeah, again, another great YA read that I just don't see talked about out there very much. Okay, you guys, next is my absolute guilty pleasure. I ate this book up. It is called Echoes and Empires by Morgan Rhodes. Now this book, I think, is very much like American Royals, but make it fantasy. I loved those vibes in this book with the fantasy twist. I thought it was just such a fun guilty pleasure read. I ate it up so quickly and had so much fun with it. So in this book, we follow a young woman named Jocelyn Drake who has kind of lived this pampered, wonderful life until her father is assassinated. And a year later, on the anniversary of his assassination at the Queen's Gala, she gets in the crosshairs of a robbery in which she is infected by a dangerous and illegal magic. So in desperation to rid herself of this magic before anyone finds out and she's executed, she makes a reluctant deal with the very criminal who got her in this mess in the first place. He will help her get rid of the magic, but when he does, he gets to take it like he was originally trying to. So the more time that she spends with him on this quest, the more she begins to realize that her pampered life in the city might not be everything she believed it was, and her worldview might be a little bit off. The empire that she loves may be the actual evil and not magic. Now, you guys, I am not here to tell you that this is a fantastic book. I'm not here to say that it is super well written, super well developed, but it was the most fun. And that's what I read for. I read to have a good time. I had an absolute blast with this book, and I cannot wait for the second one. I will be reading that in a heartbeat when it comes out. So if you are just here for a kind of hilarious, kind of ridiculous, contemporary-ish YA fantasy with Gossip Girl but magic vibes, pick this one up. It is such a fun time. Next, I have What We Harvest by Anne Freistadt. This book is maybe pushing it on the fantasy. It's maybe more leaning sci-fi fantasy, somewhere in the middle. We're gonna go with it because, again, this is another one that I absolutely had a blast reading. Could not stop listening to on the audiobook. I just needed to know what was going to happen. So in this book, we follow Ren, whose family has lived this very charmed life in the town of Hollow's End, which is a tourist destination because of their magical crops that they grow, like Ren's family's rainbow wheat. However, 5 months ago, a blight came up that started attacking the crops, but also the people of Hollow's End. The infected people wander off into the woods during the day, only to come back out at night with kind of milky, glassy eyes and a hunger for flesh. So the town has been kind of quarantined. The government was trying to help them, but has basically abandoned them. They're on their own, and Ren is one of the last people standing when she herself gets the blight. And her family has just disappeared, so the only person she has to turn to is her ex-boyfriend, Derek. And they will have to work together, uncover their ancestors' dirty secrets in order to try to save their beloved town as well as their own families and their own lives. This was such a fun take on zombies, which is such a fun addition to the YA genre. I don't feel that I read that kind of topic a ton, and I thought it was done super well in this story. I loved all of the kind of family secrets that we had going on, as well as the internal struggle of our main character. And yeah, this one just kept me hooked. I needed to know what was going to happen. I was listening to it at any chance that I had. We are getting close to the end here, but next up is League of Liars by Astrid Schulte. This is kind of a YA fantasy courtroom drama turned prison heist, which honestly kept me super captivated the whole time I was reading it. I loved the magic system, the characters, their dynamics together. I had a really fun time with it. Now, I have seen some people complaining about this one, and I totally agree that it did not feel satisfying as a standalone. The ending left me wanting so much more. I wanted so much more information about this world, about these characters, about what was going on. I do not know if it's supposed to be a standalone, if there are going to be more books in this series. I really hope so, because if so, I really highly recommend it. If it's just a standalone, I do warn you that the ending is not the most satisfying, but I had such a fun time reading this book. I really enjoyed, again, the world, the characters, the concept that we are dealing with here. So in this world, magic has always had a price, and our main character, Cater, wants nothing more than to see illegal magic users brought to justice, locked up. However, at the moment, he is working as an apprentice to the public defender, kind of in the hopes of like learning their secrets so that he can later use that against them as a prosecutor. But he is working as an apprentice to the public defender, and his 3 very young teenage clients have him questioning the system that he has always believed in. We have 3 teenagers accused of murder. We have a prison isolated, located on the edge of this rift in between dimensions that is causing this influx of super dangerous magic into this world. We have magic that is related to shadows and when used has super detrimental consequences, and a world that is super full of light because there is a huge fear of touching shadows, being near shadows, and the magic that comes from them. Now, again, like I said, I am really, really hoping that this does become a series, that there is more to the story, because the ending left me wanting, but I really had such a fun time with kind of the courtroom aspect of it, and then the heist that we get, the relationships between the characters, and the things that we find out slowly throughout the course of this book were just super interesting, super gripping to me, and again, another one that I did on audio and had a wonderful time with. The last book that I want to talk to you about today is one that I have talked about before on my channel because it is one of my favorites. This is Forestborn by Elaine Audrey Becker. If you have not read this book, I am begging you, please pick it up. This book is absolutely beautiful. I just finished a reread of it because I am hoping to read the sequel very soon. So I just read it for the second time and still love it so much. So in this book, we follow Rora, who is a shifter, and she is on the run from the evil that destroyed her home, as well as a prophecy that has been haunting her and her brother ever since they arrived in the human realms. She is working as a spy for the king of the kingdom that she has ended up in. She's helping him look into this mysterious magical illness that is plaguing their kingdom. While she is working for him, she discovers that her best friend, the youngest prince, has actually developed this illness called the fallow throes, and it is deadly. So in a desperate attempt to save him, Rora, along with her brother and the elder prince, go on a quest to the magical world that she and her brother promised they would never go back to in order to find Stardust, their only hope for curing Finley. In this book, we have 3 kingdoms on the brink of war, a sentient magical forest, and secrets that are buried deep in the past. And this is just such a wonderful read. I cannot express to you how much I love this story. The thing that I love the most about it is the character Rora and her internal struggles that she goes through. I just feel such a connection to her. I love the world building. It is so immersive, so beautiful. Magic is so fun, and I am super excited to dive into the second book, which recently came out, and I am sure will be just as lovely to read as Forestborn. So those are the 7 books I have to talk to you about today. If you decide to check any of these out, please let me know in the comments which ones sound interesting to you. If you've read any and agree that you think they're underrated and should be talked about more, let me know, because I totally think that these books should be talked about more in the bookish community. I think they were all a super fun read, even if they're not the best books ever. Like, the point of reading for me is to have a good time, and every single one of these books absolutely did that for me. I had a blast with each one of them. So I hope that you enjoy them. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a like and consider subscribing to my channel for more content. That is all I have for you today. I will talk to you in the next video. Bye, friends.